the 20th century, you know that the century population explosion, but in the 21st century is going to be likely to be the century population aging. And half of the Asian countries are living in a society with a low replacement level of fertility. So the pace of population aging in Asia has been accelerating in recent past. In fact, we're getting a bunch of the warning signals coming from these countries. For instance, Japan, my country, has a very serious the generational conflict in terms of with regard to the pension program, just like China, I guess, but even worse, because cohorts born after 1955 are likely to receive the benefits less than they were paying. So they get ripped off. So the young people in Japan are refused to make a contribution to the national pension program, which is a very serious problem. And in China, India, Thailand, and many other Asian countries are facing the numerous challenges to establish the pension programs. And in Korea and Taiwan, they have a shortage of caregivers for the elderly, very elderly persons. And to address these the aging issues, recently, a new methodology for national transfer account has been developed over the last 10 years or so. And right now, there are 46 countries participating in this global project. And you can see that each region actually has coordinated by these designated institutions. And then for the worldwide global program, the East West Center and the University of California, Berkeley are coordinating. And there are three basic features behind this national transfer account. One, we use both macro and micro level data to estimate public and private sectors. And then all the variables in NTA has an age component, so that when there's a change in age structure, you can capture the impact of age structure on the macro, overall macro activities. And then numbers generated by NTA is very, very realistic because it's consistent with the national income account system. And all the countries participating in this project have a national income account, so that we can compare the differences between these countries using on the basis of the national income account. Okay, once you join NTA, you have to start off by estimating the country's most important graph. This is Japan's most important graph. The horizontal, we have age. Vertically, we have the monetary units. This is per capita, the age profile of per capita consumption, per capita labor income. And then within the consumption, there are two categories. One is private consumption, the other one is public consumption. And having this most important graph, I want to transfer to the next one, which is called the life cycle deficit graph, which is shown below. The children as well as elderly have a deficit. They don't make much money, so they have deficits. And they also middle-aged working groups have surplus. They have some extra money. So these deficits and the surplus goes down this way, and then two deficits has to be financed by this surplus through the public transfers or familial transfers. In other words, government has to help them, or the parents just to give the money to young children or the adult parents. And also, if that's not enough, they use savings. It's called asset reallocation. And this graph shows us the change in Japan's most important graph over the last 25 years. This is back in 1984. Japan's most important graph was like this. But next 25 years, it's going to change quite a bit, like this. Quite a bit. And then the point is this here. Among the elderly persons, after 2000, the consumption started going up because government introduced a long-term care insurance. And this is going to happen with China introduced a long-term care insurance because it used to be free, done within the family, but it became externalized, it's part of the GDP, so it started going up. And also the young ones, the children in Japan are very expensive, the government spending on consumption is very high. Education is very high. And then in fact, this is interesting. I'm a bit worried about this. Japanese young people start getting less money over time. This is expressed in terms of real income. So Japanese young people are suffering in terms of the income recently because once you graduate from university, Japanese young people don't want to get a job. They say that I want to look around for a while and then find out the job I like. So if you go to Japan, you see a bunch of young people working for the convenience stores, on a part-time basis, not full-time. That's a big issue for our country. And then once you, oops, what is this? By using these most important graphs, you can come up with the intergenerational transfer patterns like this. This is a real picture of Japan in 1984. Here, the elderly component, children component. This means that at age 15, the children needs about 2 million yen. So this 2 million has to be financed by the family. This green one is the parents pay. And then the light blue is paid by the government. And same thing goes to the elderly. The elderly gets this much support from the family members, and then this much was paid by the government, and this much they use their own assets. And note, they started getting support from the children, adult children, starting from age 64. But 25 years later, this is incredible. I didn't know that until I calculated this. When I got this result, I thought I made a big mistake. But 25 years later, it's different, like this. Now, the Japanese elderly don't get much resources from the children or adult children up to the age 81. Below that, they have negative familial transfers. What does that mean? Well, the Japanese elder persons keep on giving money to the young cohort, the children, and then grandchildren. So, in that sense, in Japan, the elderly are playing the role of society's safety net. Government, because young people tend to have unemployment problems, so on and so forth. So elderly, tend to support these adult children when they have employment problems, so on and so forth. And then I estimated a bunch of the most important various countries. Like this is the European countries. It's the average of the Finland, Germany, and Sweden. And you can see that the adult elderly have a very high cost because they have a social security system, a well-developed social security system. And then Japan is somewhat similar to the European countries. But other countries, all Asian countries, are very, very different from these two countries, like this. They're all flat. Basically, these Asian countries are actually, in these Asian countries, elderly are living with the family members. So the elderly people are supported by family members. So that's why the price, the consumption level is constant, because government not involved in financing their life. I calculated the intergenerational transfer to these countries. As I said earlier, that the European countries, they have high costs, but it's covered by the light blue, which means government, all government. And then same applies to Japan. These two developed countries have a similar pattern. It's highly covered by the government sector. And then in Japan, the elderly in Japan are fairly rich, so they use their own resources. But in contrast, this is something incredible. Thailand, it's all green. In other words, government doesn't really help the elderly persons in this country. But China, there's another one here. Compared to other countries, China's level is fairly low and flat. This means consumption level in China, per capita wise, is so low, but that means the savings is huge in this country. And that's very different from other countries. But Korea is a bit different. This is a negative here again. It's just like Japan. They started giving resources to the young cohorts. We call it the Ricardian equivalent scale in economics terms. In Japan, the cost of elderly has been rising, and so the cost of children, by looking at the next graphs. This is the cost of children. 1984, this is the deficit, right? Deficit means the cost of children. This is the deficit among the elderly. This is per capita wise. This is the cost of elderly. Okay, how many years of income do we really need to cover this? It says 10 years. 10 years of income is needed to cover this. How about elderly? We need 8 years of income to cover this. Okay? Remember this 10 years and 8 years. But 25 years later, that's different. Completely different. It says not 10 years, but 14 years. Not 8 years, but 15 years. The Japanese children and Japanese elderly became very, very expensive. This is real terms. No inflation is taken care of. So they're getting more, consuming more resources. And so children are getting more, elderly are getting more. That means, are they competing with each other? This is, in economics, we said a crowding out effect. Are they competing? The question is, in order to answer the question, I plotted a graph. This is, by the way, on this axis, the cost of elderly. This is the cost of children. Then see how things will be changing in different countries. In the case of Taiwan, it started from 1981. It keeps on going like this. until 2005, it's been increasing. How about Thailand? Like this. And then, how about Korea? Like this. Japan. Like this. China and the Philippines. And all these Asian countries show that the positive relationship. In other words, children getting more, elderly getting more. Then who is really paying for it? Who is suffering? Somebody has to pay for it. That means prime age workers. This working generation is called sandwich generation or panini generations, like this. No laughing matter. I had a very difficult time to find this panini in Japan, so I have to eat this for my lunch. And then next one is a graph showing the relationship between the per capita, the fertility here, and then this is the cost of children. This is the health and education cost per child. And I plotted all these results from the Asian countries, and there's a negative relationship like this. This means, as Gary Becker pointed out, there's a trade-off or negative relationship between quality and quantity. If the quality goes up, the quantity goes down, like that. There's a very strong relationship, and statistically, it's quite well fit. And so that means if the Gary Becker's hypothesis of quality of children is correct, then can we really rely on better educated children to finance or to boost the Japanese economy? But I was a bit disappointed by looking at this result. According to the international competitive exam, the result back in 2000, Japan was #1 in the world. This is mathematics, by the way, with the highest score. So the government said, "Oh yeah, we're doing very well. So maybe let's relax. Japanese kids have a better life." So started relaxing. Sure enough, 3 years later, went down to #6, and then 2006 went down to #10. At this point, government of Japan was really panicking because they keep on falling, like this. Then what's going to happen to our country? Then they change the policies, and then they start improving slightly. But in the meantime, these Asian countries are doing better. In fact, look at the bottom here, right? Singapore, Shanghai is #1 in the entire world. So although it's not the entire country, but the Shanghai is definitely by far the highest in score. It's really high. 613. Maybe we should learn something from China. I mean, Shanghai. But the Finland is another country. Finland was doing all right up to 2006, but they made a big mistake. They followed Japanese footsteps, or maybe relaxed a little bit, and after that started falling. But one country is really hopeless. Was pretty okay in the beginning. Australia keeps on falling. So I'm a bit worried about this country. Japan's other policy options like this, well, maybe we can depend on first demographic dividend. Most of these studies shows that the total dependency ratio I think we have discussed this index earlier already, but it's like this. The children plus elderly divided by working age population, and I don't like this. Many people use this method. The UN uses this, and then if this value goes down, then it's good for the economy. So it's a demographic dividend, demographic bonus. But I don't like it because here, the person at the children at the age 10, the person at the age 70, and also the maybe age 30, they have the same weight, one person. But they're different. Children at age 5 won't consume as much as the elderly person at 70 or 35, so they should be adjusted. Image-wise, like this, this is the total dependency ratio. It's just everybody has same weight, one person. But in reality, that's not really correct. Some people are lazy, lying down, and some people just smoking and never work. So we have to make adjustment for this. How to do it? How are we going to do it? Well, because we did this. Can adjust the age structure by using most important graph, labor income profile and consumption profile. So by using this, we calculate this economic support ratio. If the economic support ratio is positive, is increasing, then we have a first demographic dividend. China, this is 2007 China profile, and it's like this. And according to this graph, and it says China's first demographic dividend continues up to year 2014, which was last year. And now, starting from this year, China is now stepping into the stage of population aging. But Japan is even worse than China. Best time is gone since 1996, and it's on a downhill and keep on falling down. But I calculated for other Asian countries, when is a good time for these economies? Look at this, various Asian countries. And then here, 2009, this is 2015. Here, the Thailand is coming on end this year. So also the Vietnam is coming in 3 years' time. In fact, I have to go to Vietnam in July, I think. We have to talk about the policies, the development policies in connection with the population aging. So I think they're very seriously concerned about the end of first demographic dividend. But in Asia, India, Indonesia, and the Philippines, many more years to go to enjoy the first demographic dividend. But that's not the end of the story for China. That's not the end of the story of Japan either. Maybe we can retain the current economic support ratio, like the case of China, for instance. This is China's the most important the labor income profile, and this peak is age 32, and then suppose you just shift this peak 1 year, little by little, over time, like this. Shift a little bit horizontally. And if the China extends like this by 8 years for the next 45 years, China will be able to manage to survive quite okay, like this. 2014 level will be retained in years to come. So China can keep on having the positive or demographic dividend stage for many years to come by adjusting the labor market. So I think this is not the end. I mean, depending on the policy, China might enjoy the sort of continuation of demographic dividend. The second factor is second demographic dividend. The people tend to live because of the better first demographic dividend. The medical system will be improving, so life expectancy will be improving. Once you live longer, you tend to save more, and once you save more, then the capital can be accumulated. It could be permanent. So that's going to be good for boosting the economy. So, but it is first and second demographic dividends are highly policy sensitive. One of the weaknesses of NTA is that it's not really policy sensitive. That's one of the areas that we have to really strengthen to come up with very effective policies for these countries. So right now we're challenging. Our Japan team has just started working on this new project, challenging to improve the NTA-based policy analytical power. And we just got 2 weeks ago, we got money from the government of Japan for finance a multi-million-dollar project for the next 5 years to particularly work on this. This is the only project approved by the government this year. So we have tremendous pressure, but I think it's worth trying. For instance, this is the most important graph for Japan, for instance, this is the pensionable age. Suppose pensionable age, if the government wants to change the pensionable age like this, then what's going to happen? Well, maybe the elderly reduce consumption because pension will be less. Or maybe they may work a little harder so that the labor income will be different. Or maybe the elderly might give less money to the grandchildren because the pocket money will be less, like this. But if you look at this graph, this is the problem. We look at the age, and we're looking at this is labor income, this is the consumption, but we're looking at the age like 55, they were making this much money, but the consumption will be this much. But we're looking at the average person, this is the key. NTA look at the average person at each age. But there's tremendous variability among the people at the same age, like age 50, well, depending on health condition, depending on education, depending on family organization, they're completely different. We have to address this variability among individuals to come up with more effective policies. That's what we're working on. So, also change over time. That's another thing. So what we're doing right now is that we combine the NTA with the J-Star. This is HRS type of survey, the Japanese study of aging and retirement. Then we have already have 4 rounds of survey, longitudinal panel data, covering all these individual persons. So by using this, plus we're going to conduct a new the panel survey covering young people. By combining these two, we try to come up with a more effective policies. So hoping that we'll be coming up with a more policy-sensitive simulation model for Japan to come up with more effective policies. Hopefully, we can share the results with other countries. And then right now, among NTA, there are 20 countries which might be able to do the same thing because they have NTA plus they have their own country surveys. Like China is definitely one of them. So I think I hope we can continue collaborating with the Chinese people and other Asian countries. Thank you.